Well, everyone, I just got back to my hotel room. I'm here in Los Angeles for Summer Games Fest, and I just had the pleasure of playing Crimson Desert. It literally was the #1 thing I had on my to-do list while here, and so the first session available at 10 a.m., I went straight to their booth and I played the game, and they let me play it for close to an hour, which I'm not sure they were supposed to do, but I'm here to tell you all about it. In case you're not familiar, this game has gone viral numerous times because it looks so good. In many ways, it looks too good to be true, which is why it's gone viral. People accusing it of being a fake game, of not actually running like this. There's no way it is like this with destructible environments. There's no way you can have that many enemies on screen. They get all of that slung at them. And I totally understand those concerns, but just take a moment to appreciate how good of a problem this is to have, okay? Most games nowadays that get announced, people complain because they look bad and they don't look interesting. This game, people get worried about because it looks too good to be true, which is, again, a great problem to have, because if your game actually is that good, you're set. You know, you're just gonna wow people. So I played a lot of the game, and I wanna tell you about it because a lot of what I saw was wildly impressive. There are still a couple of points of concern and even just weird things I hope to see fixed, but I'm gonna tell you all about it, okay? So buckle in. One thing I do wanna be clear about though is that what you're gonna see today in this video is a lot of B-roll that they sent. Of course, because of the way it was set up, as you can see in this little snippet, we're playing in a very crowded room. We don't have time to set up capture cards or stuff, so what we are showing you throughout this video is B-roll provided to us by the team. It's not ideal, but I also kind of get it. Like, it's just more practical and easier to manage at an event like this. But I do want to be clear about that. We're only dealing with a couple of minutes of B-roll total for this preview build of the game. So you're gonna see a lot of repeated sequences throughout this video as I'm talking about stuff, and maybe even some B-roll and footage from previous demo builds that they put together and released at other events like Gamescom. That's just how we're gonna have to do it for the sake of this video, but rest assured I played close to an hour of the game, so I have a lot of thoughts, and I played a lot more than what you're seeing here. The first thing to understand is that this is a brand new demo. Most of the gameplay footage you've seen over the last year has been clips of the same demo build that they made like a year ago, and they've just been bringing it to different events, maybe occasionally updated, but it's the same sliver of gameplay, the same boss fights, it's the same basic thing. And how this was described to me by one of the people on the Crimson Desert team from Pearl Abyss was that the previous builds were very early in the game. They were about early gameplay techniques and styles and simple encounters with like 5 enemies, 10 enemies maybe. But with this build, they wanted to show us something crazy. Like, they really wanted to wow us. So they put us in the middle of a straight up siege on a castle, and there were like hundreds of enemies. Like, it's insane. Not only do they have you repairing cannons and then launching those into towers, watching the towers get blown up, and then you charge in and you call in artillery fire on top. Like, it's insane how much stuff is going on at any given moment in this game. This demo was just like sheer insanity. If I had any notes for them, it's probably that like so much is going on at any given moment, it can often be hard to tell what you need to do. Like, there's just so many enemies, which again, I think is the point. It's supposed to be a siege, and frankly, it feels like it. In a lot of ways, it's refreshing to have a gameplay sequence that's set in a chaotic setting, and then have the scene, set pieces, NPCs, enemy design, everything actually reflect that. Like, you know how in some games they're like, oh, this is a huge battle sequence with the fate of the continent resting on it, and it's like 15 people? That is not what you have here. Here, it's insane. Everybody's there. It's sheer chaos. But this is where the first bit of surprise came for me. The game plays very, very differently than I expected. I think when you see footage of Crimson Desert, it looks like a Soulsborne game. It looks like a FromSoft game in terms of the combat, like R1 for light attack, R2 for heavy. That's just kind of what it appears to be. Maybe a special here or there, maybe a drop kick or a melee attack, like a drop kick or a punch or something, but fairly straightforward. That is not what this game is. This game is way more complex at the later stages of like abilities and ability acquisition and stuff. It's wild. Like, not only is it R1, R2, but it's also about hot swapping weapons. It's about pressing triangle and circle at the same time to do a special swap attack to a different weapon, using circle and X to then do like a special elemental attack, swapping from fire elemental damage to ice elemental damage specifically for this type of enemy, and then swapping back to fire elemental damage so that your arrow does fire damage, which causes the tower to collapse, all while using this special extra like spirit essence ability to be able to triple jump in the air and then fly over the enemy to get on the other side of it to attack its weak point. Like, it is so complex. It blew me away and frankly intimidated me when I first booted into it. And it was funny because the playtest demoist, I guess you'd say, that was sitting next to me on the couch while I was playing, she was explaining some tips and tricks. And she asked me, have you played our other like combat builds of the game, which they've had at other events like Gamescom? And I said, no. And she said, actually, I think that's for the best, because you don't have to relearn anything, like you just get to learn the combat. Because apparently this save was only about a third of the way through the game, but it was pretty late in terms of like the skills they had added to the character. Like, it's a third of the way through the story, but the character's been grinding side quests and has a bunch of extra XP. You know, that's basically what we were dealing with here. And as a result, like a lot of people that played the earlier combat builds had a rough understanding of basic combat, but this was like late stage combat, and it's way more complex and nuanced and multifaceted than I expected, in a good way. It took me a while to get my feet under me. Like, transparently, for the first 10 minutes or so, I felt like I was just constantly getting hit from every side, knocked prone, and then I had to roll out of it. Like, it was very overwhelming. But eventually I got the hang of it, especially once I understood the movement within combat and things like that. And it started working. But what one of the Crimson Desert guys told me was, the sooner you stop playing it like a Soulsborne game, the sooner you have fun. And I think that's going to be important for a lot of people because, again, when you look at the gameplay, it's just kind of assumed that it's a fairly straightforward Souls-like combat system. Again, R1 light heavy or light attack and then R2 heavy attack. Like, that's just kind of what it looks like in the footage. That is not what this game is. My demoist, she compared it to fighting games, not to a Souls-like game, okay? So just bear in mind, like, this is way more nuanced and complex than anything you probably were expecting. And I think that's a good thing, but it's probably not what you were expecting. Speaking of not what I was expecting, the sheer scope and scale of these encounters was absolutely insane. Seriously, the sheer volume of particle effects when you're like dealing fire damage or enemies are burning and then you use ice damage, elemental damage to like attack them who are already burning for extra damage. Like, the sheer quantity of things happening on screen is so insane. It's wildly impressive. And the game wasn't dropping frames. It was not struggling to maintain this. It was locked and loaded, and it ran great. I was thoroughly impressed. It wouldn't tell me what hardware it was running on or anything. My understanding is it was a PC build, but I could be mistaken about that. But it really is impressive. And I was quite skeptical because I was like, there's got to be some other shoe that's going to drop, right? There's got to be some weak point for Crimson Desert, which we'll get to in a minute because I think I found it. But I was thinking it was going to be performance, but man, like, this game runs quite well. I'm thoroughly impressed. But having said that, you're probably wondering, where is the other shoe gonna drop? Are there problems? Is there anything concerning in what you played? Let us have it, Luke. And at the outset, I just want to preface this by saying what I played for this stage in development was wildly impressive, and it's fantastically well optimized for where it's at. Performance was good, all of that. But there were a couple of things that drove me absolutely crazy. The first thing is something I've heard other people mention after their playtests of previous builds, and that is that the lock-on mechanic doesn't actually lock on. I genuinely don't know if this is a design choice or if it's some sort of bug or something. The fact that it's been in the game in this form for like a year makes me think it's a design choice. But basically, like, in your standard action game, you lock onto an enemy, and as that enemy moves, the camera stays centered on them, right? Like, as they move, the camera goes with them so that, you know, you can strafe to the right or to the left of them, but they stay locked in the center of the frame. In Crimson Desert, it doesn't do that. Like, it'll sometimes lock and do that. Other times, it'll still have the dot, but the camera won't move with them, so they'll leave the field of view. It's really bizarre. And I, again, don't know if this is a design choice or some sort of bug. The people that were there today weren't like, I don't think they understood what I was trying to say. So I'm not sure if it was like a language barrier or what it was. But I've heard other people mention this after they played and previewed Crimson Desert, and it still is a thing to this day. Frankly, I think lock on should just lock on. Like if you're fighting a boss, lock the camera on. I locked it on because I want to just stare at that boss as I strafe around the arena. That's my preference. And maybe have an option in the settings to toggle it off and go back to whatever it is now if you really think that's important. But it was so frustrating to regularly be like locked onto somebody and then it just doesn't work. It just doesn't do what you want it to do. So you end up rolling where you don't want to roll. You move the way you don't want to move. The camera gets stuck. It's just frustrating. And this follows in line with other like larger encounters where you might be locked on to one enemy in a crowd of 5 or 6 of them. And in a typical action adventure game, you would just like hit the right stick to the left or right to swap which target is locked onto. But in this game, it doesn't work consistently at all. Sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't at all. I still don't actually know, again, whether this is working the way they want it to or not. It's just, it feels bad, man. So this is something I think they absolutely can fix and can work on. It's a point of constructive criticism I know they've heard, so hopefully they are working on it. But it gets really, really frustrating when you're in a boss fight and the camera that you're trying to lock on and you think is locked on all of a sudden stops locking on and gets stuck on a wall or something. It can be very, very frustrating. So hopefully they fix that as we get closer to launch. The other thing I want to mention, and this is niche and might not bother other people anywhere near as much as it bothers me, is that the dialogue is really weirdly like paced and stilted. There's lines of dialogue, each is like, you know, a specific line, and it might be a character saying something like, "Ah, they're pushing in past the barrier." And then they have another line. And you would think, they're pushing in past the barrier. We need to run and catch them, cut them off. But instead of just saying the lines back to back with, "Ah, they're pushing past the barrier, we need to run and catch them," they say the first line, and then it's like the engine is trying to load the next line of dialogue. So, "They're running past the barricade. We need to run and catch them." And every line of dialogue is like that. Every single line has like a solid 2-second buffer before it happens. It's really weird. And it's just enough time for it to feel like everybody just took a massive dose of NyQuil right before the battle. Because even though like explosions are going off and fire arrows are coming in and everybody's dying and everybody's in pain and screaming, even though that's happening, everybody's like, "Ah, we need to get the cannons ready. They've broken. You, help me put the wheel back on this cannon. It fell off. Hurry, man, we're running out of time." Like, it's just off enough for it to feel stupid, okay? So I really hope that they fix that too and they tighten it up. I actually think the B-roll we have doesn't actually show this, and I get why, because it's kind of ridiculous. So hopefully that's something they're already aware of and they're working to fix it and just tighten that up, because again, it's just enough time for it to be really frustrating and distracting. And I don't think it's a big deal in like a 45-minute demo or an hour demo or whatever. It's like something you notice, but it's not that big of a deal. But it is something that over the course of like a 50-hour game would probably drive you insane if every conversation was like that. So we'll see. But those are the two things that immediately stood out to me. But honestly, overall, I'm thoroughly, thoroughly impressed by this. Not only did it look fantastic and play very, very well, but especially once I got my feet under me and started to really get a grasp of the controls, which are intimidating. I mean, this is not a simple game. This is quite complex. But once I got my feet under me, I was blown away at the production value, at the scale of everything that they were doing. It was crazy. It really, really was in all the best ways. And it was just wildly impressive. I mean, I left the demo going, this game could actually be that game. Like, this could actually be what we were hoping it is. It's still got some jank, it's still got some clunk here and there, but they have time, they can work on it, they can polish it, and I think they're aware of all of these problems. But the hard stuff, they've already got. The hard stuff like making really crazy encounters, interesting world building, to have fascinating gameplay abilities and characters and things. They have all that. It's just like these little, you know, smaller things like getting the camera lock working more consistently and the dialogue pacing to tighten up so that there's not as much of a gap. Like, that stuff is relatively easy for them to fix. And so I've left this preview being way more impressed and excited than I was before. Like, I actually think they might really, really be onto something, and that's awesome. You know, it's really cool to see. And I'm very, very excited to see what else they have to bring to the table, because they just keep impressing me. It's absolutely wild. Now, obviously, I still have some unanswered questions, things like the story I don't know much about. We got plopped into a save file about a third of the way through the story, like the campaign. And so naturally, I don't really understand what's going on. When this character refers to this other character, I haven't seen them before, so I don't know the nuance of their relationship and all that. But I will say the dialogue seemed decent when it was paced properly, and you know, I thought that the world seemed interesting at the very least. So I just can't wait to see more. But I would say, as of right now, this could have been a bad day. You know, this could have been a day where I preview it and it's like buggy and broken and busted, and it looks like they smeared Vaseline on the screen because they're using FSR2 Ultra Performance mode with frame generation, and it looks like ass, it runs like ass. It could have been that today, but instead I've left being thoroughly impressed, and I cannot wait to find out more. So I am a happy camper, I'll tell you what, and I want to thank Pearl Abyss for giving me the chance to play it, and I can't wait to see more as they approach launch. So Ooh, this one may be it, okay? This may be the game we thought it was. So don't get hyped, because getting hyped is stupid, but stay intrigued, my friends, stay intrigued. But that's gonna do it for me. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, liking the videos, all of that stuff. Like I said, I've got more stuff coming from here in Los Angeles over the next couple of days. So make sure to subscribe and like the videos and stuff for that. Or don't. I'm not your dad. I'm just glad you're watching. But trust me, there's gonna be a couple of things you're gonna wanna see. I mean, there's some juicy stuff coming. That's all I'm gonna say, okay? Some stuff you don't know about, that I know about, that you're gonna wish you knew about before I knew about it. So just buckle up, okay? It's gonna be crazy. But that's gonna do it for me. Thank you for watching. I love y'all so much. Thank you for making my dreams a reality so I can do this for a living. It's insane that I get to do it for a living. And I owe that to you because you watch my stupid rambling. So truly, truly, thank you. Until next time, my friends, much love. I'll see you in the next one. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.